Good evening. The meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we please have a roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Here.
Mr. Tesler.
Here.
Ms. Antelis.
Here.
Mr. Braverman. Mr. Chiarella.
Here.
Mr. Kaufman. Here. Mr. Masters.
Here.
Mr. Poi.
Here.
Mr. Precioso.
Here.
Mr. Zarneski.
Here.
Madam Board President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted March 15, 2013, 1 at all schools, 2 Home News Tribune, 3 Cranberry Press, and 4 filed with the clerk of the municipality. And 2 things I have before we start the meeting. One is that if I'm not on my A game today or my B, C, D, E, etc. game, it is because I am recovering from a severe bout of food poisoning, and you might be seeing Mr. Tesler sitting here in a little while. I hope not, but you never know. At this time, I'd like to turn over the meeting to Dr. Hamilton.
Good evening, all. Madam Board President and members of the Board of Education, I asked Kathy Kay if I could have a moment before the start of this meeting to address the board and the public. I'd like to offer my apologies to the members of the Board of Education, the community, staff, and most importantly to my students for my role in the abrasive exchange that occurred on March 5th during the Public Board of Education meeting. I have always modeled the utmost civility and respect for others, even when it was not reciprocated. While the sensationalism of that exchange made for very catchy bylines, the real story lies in the conditions that triggered that debate or that exchange in the first place. I share a deep passion for the extraordinary inequity in the distribution of state aid, which has left Monroe residents to carry essentially the full burden of supporting our schools. This reality fueled my frustration when it appeared that our efforts, which included writing letters to the governor, the commissioner, working in concert with Save Our Schools, who have been very helpful with carrying our cause, several meetings with the governor's chief of staff and other members of the cabinet in order to bring attention to the disparity and funding when compared to neighboring communities, developing legislation which seeks to obligate the state to fully fund the school funding formula, thereby creating a tax relief for our residents and other communities whose demographics are comprised of 1/3 of residents 65 years of age or older, currently known as Senate Bill 2307. This administration has gone above and beyond to extraordinary lengths to advocate for its students and the community. While I may espouse a difference of opinion on the methods selected to address this issue, and those opinions may differ from members of our community, there is no debate about this being a shared concern. In retrospect, in regards to that March 5th meeting, I could have simply have given the facts without the emotionality, but at the end of the day, I'm only human. I'm subject to the same imperfections, vulnerabilities, and sensitivities as anyone else. While I carry the title of superintendent, it doesn't come with superpowers. So again, I offer my apologies, and I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. At this time, we will go to our student board members' reports, or report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Spring break will begin Monday, March 25th, and end Friday, March 29th. Also, Monroe Township High School presents Grease, the spring musical. It will take place from April 11th through April 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6 on the agenda, Avid Senior Class 2013 presentation. Dr. Gorman, would you like to handle this? Or go ahead.
I am very proud this evening to introduce the Avid teachers and electives and students, and I have to share an experience that I had while I was doing my rounds this week. I was in the high school, and during the passing of classes, and a student yelled for me in the hallway, and she said, "Dr. Hamilton, I got into my school of choice, Penn U." And the glee on her face and the excitement that she shared really solidified for me why this program is so important. So without further ado, Michelle Critelli and Renata.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Dr. Gorman, Board of Education members, staff, and members of the community, and Ms. Renata McKenzie, our 12th grade Avid elective teacher, and our Avid elective seniors who are here this evening. I'd like them to introduce themselves to the community, and they're going to share their Avid story with you, and then also tell you where their future plans are.
How you doing? My name is Bobby Steffi, and I'm a senior in the AVID program, and I've been accepted to Sacred Heart with an academic and athletic scholarship to play football there. And I don't think I would have gotten there if it wasn't for the AVID program. I think the motivation and the initiative it gave me to do more with myself instead of just the middle of the road and the average stuff, I would have never got to where I was today. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Philip Dudek, and AVID really helped me get through high school. It gave me extra motivation and pushed me to take AP classes and stuff like that. And I'm waiting back to here, but I think I'm going to play football at Western New England University, and AVID really helped me get my grades to the point that I need to get there. So, thank you.
How's it going? My name's Hugo Anko, and I'm a member of the AVID program. Through AVID, it's helped me excel, and through that, I've been accepted in multiple colleges. I'm probably going to Moravian, which I got a scholarship for, and going there to play football and pursue my dreams of playing football at the next level. Thank you.
My name is Megan Kranz. I've been in the AVID program for 4 years. I'm going to Brookdale Community College in the fall. It's not very common to go to college in my family, so in the beginning I wasn't very motivated, but AVID got me more focused that my college life and what I do in the future is more important than what my social life is like. So AVID really changed my motivation and my attitude towards higher education.
Okay. Hello. My name is Rajani Langston. I'm good, right? I was accepted to Harrisburg, Keene, and St. Elizabeth. I think I'm gonna go do Harrisburg. AVID has really pushed me to become the person I am today. Without AVID, I think I wouldn't have been accepted to any college because I would have been given up and probably wouldn't have enough determination. And that's exactly what AVID has taught me, determination.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Humphrey, and through AVID, I've been accepted to 6 colleges, and that's everywhere I've applied. And my first acceptance was Rider University, where the screenshot I got. I'm still contemplating on where I want to go. My top choice is St. John's University, but you know, they're kind of expensive. But that's why I'm working on scholarships, and I really think AVID has helped me to get myself to where I want to be, because since 6th grade, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I always had that in mind, I just never had that push. And AVID really pushed me to do that, so thank you.
Hi, Matt Benedetti. Wow, oh, it's loud. I've been in the AVID program for 4 years. I've been accepted to Rutgers Business School at Newark, and that's where I plan on attending. And AVID really helped me push myself to do bigger and better things. Ever since I was in middle school, I knew I had a lot more to offer than what I was really putting on the table, so think Avid definitely helped me with that and kind of get to the next level.
Hello, my name's Star Peters. I was accepted to Western State University in Colorado, and I don't think I would have gotten there without Avid because I wasn't taking school too seriously before I went into the program, and then once I was here, I had my teachers that I got really close with over the 4 years, and they helped push me to the place where I needed to be to see what I wanted to do with my life and get to college, so it really helped me.
Hello, I'm Daniel Scavone. I'm a 4-year Avid member. Avid has helped me in so many different ways. Well, just so you know what college I want to go to, I want to go to Temple University. I haven't been accepted yet, but I'm hoping that they'll get back to me soon. Well, Avid's helped me in many ways. They taught me about a lot of the things that I never even considered about college, like a lot of the expenses, what you have to do to get into it, just life outside of school. Just sort of showed me like how it is in the real world, which I never really thought of. Like in middle school, I was just like thinking about it like all fictionally, like I'm gonna do whatever I want when I grow up. But I didn't realize how hard I would have to work to get to it. And aside from just the educational stuff, like organizing, Avid's helped me like socially as well. Like if you see this group of people, they're not people I would have normally ever talked to outside of Avid, but now they're all like really close friends with me. So I feel like it's sort of helped me in that regard as well, open up more socially in addition, which is also really helpful in the real world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Renata McKenzie. I am the Avid teacher. I've been their teacher for 4 years. This is just a selection of the students that we have in our elective class, the first Avid graduating class. I will say that at times it's been an arduous journey. It's definitely, it's been filled with ups and downs, rigor, students that have wanted to leave at times because they weren't up for the challenge, but I am proud to say that they stayed and they've made me very, very proud as a teacher. And, I thank them for that. They've been an inspiration for me.
And if I may, in addition to the awesome, awesome seniors that we have Avid students in every grade level. And in working with the students, I mean, some of the things that they have done have been truly incredible, and some of the experiences they've had have really made a difference. And not only the students, but the teachers. We have had the opportunity to work together as a collaborative group, and the things that we have done and the bonds that we have shared professionally have made a difference for all of us professionally, and it has had such an impact on our students. So on behalf of the Avid system and all that we do, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity to be able to have this awesome program in the high school. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I think everybody up here sitting around this table are proud of all of you, and we're proud to support a program that helps all of you excel. I think what I've heard tonight is that you've been pushed to be better than you thought you could be, and you're going places that you've never expected to go, and we're all proud to be able to support you on that. So thank you. We wish all of you the best, and congratulations. At this time, we are going to the public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to the agenda, with the exception of the adoption of the school budget, which will come later, please come to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. As we did with the last meeting, the second public forum for the budget will be held after the budget presentation. We ask that you adhere to our 3-minute time limit and to speak only once per topic. Thank you.
Please tell me what AVID stands for. I assume it's an acronym.
Advancement via individual determination.
Good evening, Tom Notestein, 15 Nathaniel Street. I just have a question with the closed session resolution. Could somebody tell me what is the nature of the lawsuit that's mentioned in that?
Which part?
The closed session, the first closed session resolution, Plitcha versus Monroe. You guys are getting legal advice tonight on that. I'd like to know the nature of that lawsuit.
Public record. The board has been in litigation with an employee that we hope will be soon coming to a resolution, and the attorney will be providing us with a potential settlement.
Is it personal injury? Is it what kind of employment litigation?
Discrimination case.
Discrimination. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
My name is Jim Simmons, 594 Buffalo Avenue, 40-year resident in town, trying to survive in this sea of gated communities and mega mansions. Not you personally, but it's killing me, these taxes and what it costs to run the school. That's, everybody knows
Are
that.
you speaking in regard to the budget?
Just the cost of running the school.
Okay.
I have one question I'd like answered. Well, two questions I'd like to have answered. I see there's 2 patrolmen here. This is new, I understand, right?
Yes.
At what cost?
Do you have the cost? Yeah.
The Board of Education has previously approved an authorization to use police services. We've had them at basketball games, football games, and sporting events in the past. It's approximately $90 an hour for each officer, and that's the approximate cost.
Well, I don't agree with that either, but then my second question is, you opened up employees or a Monroe Mecca, whatever you call it. You have an enrollment of 9 or 10 children. What's that cost now? What's that cost to the board? Because I know you're not covering your costs with 9 or 10 children.
There's more kids in that. Do you want to speak to Mecca?
I don't have the enrollment data in front of me, so I'm not sure that is the exact number. But the intent of MECA is for it to become a self-sustaining program that benefits our employees. Our desire is to provide, one of the things that we noticed is that many of our teachers were taking extended leaves because they couldn't find affordable daycare. So we were paying those teachers to be out and teachers to fill in their classrooms as well. By providing this service, we're expecting that those teachers will come back and save us money in the long haul. So once the enrollment gets to the point where it's self-sustaining, we will actually be making money and saving expenditures. If it does not turn out that way, then the board will make a decision that it's not an enterprise account like we had hoped it would be and disband it.
And what time limit would that be?
Well, we haven't talked about that, and I would not want to speak on behalf of the board, but I would think that if we were having the same discussion this time next year, it would be time to say it didn't work.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Michelle Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. Agenda item 2, page 15. I know the agenda has changed. One thing I'd like to point out is when citizens want to be informed, we have the agenda on the website, and then by the time we get here, it's changed. So I think that's a bit of a problem. I know there are often last-minute additions, but on a regular basis, it seems to be changed, and it seems that it's not very transparent that way. People should have the ability to download these from the website prior to the meeting and then come and be able to speak to it. So I don't have as much information as I'd like, so I'm going to have to ask a few questions. On employee, so page 15, number 2, it's recommended that the board approve the following non-certified personnel in the following step guide. Can you talk about the first one, workstation specialist? What is that, please?
Dr. Hamilton?
Yes. These are folks who are identified as workstation specialists are the part of our tech crew.
Okay, and they are specifically designed to help people with the iPads or in addition?
Oh, no, all the technology.
Okay, and what is the job description for that?
I don't know it by heart.
Well, you promote, this is your section, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You put these people in place, you hire them, or you
Yes, ma'am.
recommend hiring?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what would be a job description? It says here for MAC certification. I would think that you should hire somebody for that to begin with.
No, not necessarily, actually. What happens is there's professional development opportunity that's available to all of our employees. Our tech department, for example, many of them seek certification in a very specific area of their specialization. In this particular instance, this gentleman has completed the coursework for his MAC certification, and the same benefit that has been in place for several years is applicable in this regard in terms of an additional
Was this
stipend.
voted on previously?
Yes.
And what happened?
There was a flaw in the way the motion was presented and carried, and we're reintroducing that entire section of the agenda that was passed at the March 5th meeting.
Okay, and that's because of the person in question is a relative of a member of the board, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it was an inappropriate vote the last time?
Correct.
Because the person did not recuse themselves?
That part is not accurate. The
Okay.
person did recuse himself, but also seconded the
Okay.
motion, which made it invalid.
This is the hazard of nepotism and hiring this in this situation. This is a new hire, it was a new position, the person did not hold this position as a grandfathered job. This was done during, like last year, and I think it takes away from the policy. You have a nepotism policy in place that you did not regard properly, in my opinion. You have a financial policy that says no person on the board should be voting on something that enhances their own family situation. We ask the children, again, I always bring it back to a role model situation where this is an educational institution, and if you learn to find loopholes in policies, find loopholes in laws, and skirt around, what are you teaching the children to do? When you game the system, it's cheating everyone. And I think that the nepotism policy should be entirely adhered to. There are more members on this board than one with direct relatives involved in the Board of Education who are getting salaries and paid, and I think it changes the nature of the vote, and there's an implied, I think,
Thank you
quid
very
pro
much
quo.
for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hello. Gail Kokorikis, 27 Spruce Meadows Drive. With the events of the last 6 months happening in schools, have we ever considered putting police officers in our schools during the day?
We did have a security audit done in collaboration with our security team and the Monroe Township Police Department, and there was recommendations made. Those recommendations also mirrored the recommendations that were put out by the American Association of School Administrators.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working on a security plan we've actually already started implementing parts of it,
Mm-hmm.
but armed police officers were not included in that plan as a recommendation for proceeding.
Okay.
But it was considered.
Okay. I do find it ironic, having been here 2 weeks ago for the other meeting, that with there being the altercation that occurred, that now all of a sudden we have not one, but 2 police officers standing here costing us money to protect, I'm guessing, you guys, as well as us and the public. But yet during the day, our kids don't have that same protection. And I just find it ironic that after that meeting, that now all of a sudden we have not one, but 2 police officers. Meanwhile, we have a security guard sitting out front. So I just kind of find it ironic that, you guys have police protection and our kids during the day do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public?
Nelson Chen, 4 Ashley Court. On the daycare center, the MECA program, my understanding is that that's going to be open to township employees because of lack of enrollment by the teachers. Is that correct?
Partially. That was actually a decision that was made prior to We always knew that we would have a tiered enrollment process. So in its inception, we were going to offer it to our teachers first, then municipal employees second. So,
But it's primarily for educators. If it's not working for educators, and we've loaned the program $200,000, I think we need to nip it in the butt now and close it down. It's not working for its original intention, which was for the educators. We're opening it up to the township employees, and my understanding is if the enrollment doesn't occur, we don't fill the needed billets to make it zero cost for the taxpayers here, it's going to be open to the public. Why do we need to incur the additional cost, the additional liability, the additional burden when it's really not a necessary program?
in its full, if it's fully implemented and fully housed, it is a very effective program. But
That's a big word, the full.
Yeah, I understand.
And it's been going on for how many months now without the full, at a cost of at a conservative cost of $200,000. You know, I think if you really delve into it, the costs are probably a little higher than $200,000.
Well, the board has that information. They get periodic updates on where we are with Mecca, and at some point we'll assess it and the board will say.
Well, I will appeal to the board to please close the program down before it keeps costing the taxpayers more money.
I just want to say in regard to Mecca, that program didn't start until July, so it hasn't even been part of our, on the radar for at least the past 8 months. April, May, June, that is the time when parents register their children for daycare for following September. So at this time, it's going to tell us how many people we will be having from our district who will be registering their children for daycare. So I don't think this is the time to just let that go when we don't even have any clue what the numbers will be looking like in September. So.
Good evening, Joe Castelluccio, 20 Ashley Court. I'm part of Monroe Citizens for Responsible Government. We create a website, monroemcrg.org, and the reason for that is to address a lot of the things in more detail that we've been trying to speak to all of you about that we can't convey in just 3 minutes. But what's happening, and it's very important for you as you look at budgets, is what's going on in Monroe Township. It's not unique, by the way, but it is a serious issue. How we have citizens leaving the town because they can't afford the taxes, and a lot of people that want to come into the town can't. Some of the letters that I'm receiving will be on that website, so you can see that. And going forward, in the next few months, we're going to give you details on a lot of these things, which we will hand out to you in each board meeting, so you can see specific facts. These are not opinions. What you have here is declining home prices that we've had going on for 5 years. You have people that are appealing these taxes, and rightfully so. You have people who are on fixed income. About 40% of Monroe Township are retirees, have fixed income. Their savings is not drawing any interest because interest rates are low. And obviously they don't have cost of increases on their Social Security. This is what you call a situation that's going to explode. We're trying to get you, and we're sympathetic with Dr. Hamilton on the state aid. We totally agree. And we've given some suggestions on how you can approach that. But that doesn't mean that because we're not getting the state aid that we deserve, that we should go out and spend in a crazy way. We never said don't hire teachers. We never said don't give teachers raises. We're talking about the wasteful spending, iPads, people smelling the air in schools because they want to see if there's carbon monoxide or whatever. Silly things like we just talked about and Nelson just talked about. Those are the things you have to address. We're coming to a point where the township is going to be bankrupt. And you're not going to be talking about whether you can give a teacher a raise. You're going to be talking about which school do I close. You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be sitting on the board when that happens. And it will happen. What we have going on now is unsustainable. You should listen to the citizens and not make up stories and give scare tactics. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a comment in regard to the agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public forum and move to the approval of the minutes for the Public Board of Education meeting of January 16, 2013. Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Masters, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Antelis, did you abstain?
So noted.
Okay. The closed session meeting of January 16, 2013. Mr. Chiarella,
Second.
Mr. Tesler, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Antelis. The Public Board of Education meeting of February 13, 2013.
Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Antelis, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? No abstentions. For the closed session meeting of February 13, 2013.
So moved.
Ms. Antelis, Mr. Masters, again, comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions and opposed. The special meeting of March 2nd, 2013. Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Tesler, are there all in favor?
Aye.
I have to
Opposed?
abstain. I was
Abstain?
absent.
Mr. Poi is abstaining? Mr. Kaufman is abstaining?
I'll abstain.
Ms. Antelis is abstaining.
So noted.
Anyone else? Okay. The public meeting and hearing on the tentative budget of March 5th, 2013. Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Antelis, all in favor? Opposed? And abstention.
Abstain.
Mr. Poi is abstaining. The closed session meeting of March 5th, 2013.
So moved.
Mr. Tesler, Ms. Antelis, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Mr. Poi. And I think that's been enough minutes for tonight. At this time, we will go to the presentation and adoption of the 2013-2014, Mr.
Prezioso.
Yeah. I don't see your name.
In approval of the minutes, can we have some more information when we get the minutes?
What
It's on a
information are you-
very close summary of very little information.
I believe that's the record of the minutes that we have. Is that not true, Mr. Gorski?
We send out to the board members the minutes once they're ready for board approval in accordance with the policy. If a closed session minute agenda item isn't resolved at that time, it's not going to have a lot of detail. If the matter has been resolved, we'll conclude it with as much detail as appropriate.
What are you looking for?
Well, if there's a discussion about something in the budget or something going on in the school, I'm sure the public would like to see who was for and who was against during a closed session.
There is no action taken in closed session.
Okay, but there's debate.
There's debate, but again, when a closed session item is resolved, we give that information to the public. Until it's resolved, we can't do that. We'll go back to the presentation and adoption of the 2013-2014 school budget. Dr. Hamilton?
I'm actually going to turn this over to Mr. Gorski. He'll make the presentation.
Members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, members of the public, student board members, there is no change from the tentative budget that was adopted on March 5th to the final budget that we are asking for approval for this evening. And the opportunity to make changes during the budget, if there are any to be made, occurs between the tentative budget hearing and the final budget adoption. That's the opportunity for board members to make inquiries, suggest modifications to the budget. Quite often, we use certain estimates in the budget, like with the PERS pension liability that the district has an increasing amount for every year, shifting from the state to the local school district. And that number is usually released in the period between the tentative budget hearing and the final adoption, so that normally requires a revision. However, the state is still fumbling on what that number is going to be this year, and they haven't released it yet. So I believe that the estimate that we have, based upon New Jersey Association of School Business Officials, is close enough that it'll suffice. And again, the highlights of this budget are that we are accommodating a growing student body of an additional 225 students for next year at a cost of about $3.4 million on average. We're replacing 4 buses and 2 vans, which are mandated by the state's retirement schedule for those type of vehicles, with the exception of 1 bus. We have a new technology lease obligation that's about $500,000 to the budget. And we have about 17 new staff members, most of which are mandated to be hired because of either special ed requirements or enrollment growth. The majority of which are special ed requirements, and we don't have an option. We have to hire them in accordance with the IEPs. But that said, and with all of the provisions in this budget satisfying the growth, replacing the Monroe Township Middle School Performing Arts Center roof at a cost of about $500,000, with the iPads, with the buses, the board's very proud to introduce a budget with the lowest tax increase in 15 years. And if you go back to 15 years ago when there was a 2-cent increase, there was a rateable growth of $97 million that year. This year, the rateable growth is only $3 million. So this is a very impressive budget, in my opinion. It serves everybody. It was very sensitive to the taxpayers in town. It's returning $3.5 million of bond surplus to the taxpayers, but even without that application of bond surplus, it would still be about a 1.5 cent decrease from last year's level. So, Madam Board President, I would like to read the resolution at this time for the adoption of the 2013-2014 final budget adoption. It is recommended that members of the Monroe Township Board of Education approve the following amounts in resolution for the 2013-2014 budget. Be it resolved by the Monroe Township Board of Education that the 2013-2014 general fund budget be adopted in the amount of $98,220,878, and a general fund local tax levy in the amount of $85,818,172, and a special revenue fund in the amount of $978,701, and a debt service budget in the amount of $10,233,438, and a debt service local tax levy in the amount of $5,875,093, whereby the 2013-2014 budget totals $109,433,017. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has been notified of state aid amounts, and whereas such state aid amounts are for the 2013-14 categorical special education aid is $2,048,517, and the 13-14 categorical security aid is $92,501, and the 13-14 categorical transportation aid is $496,510, and the 13-14 debt service aid is $684,610. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has estimated a state aid amount pursuant to application for the 13-14 estimated extraordinary aid amount is $214,453. And whereas the state's failure to fully fund the School Funding Reform Act of 2008, as well as other factors, has provided insufficient financial support for programs and services contained in the base budget, necessitating the application of $539,319 of unused spending authority to be included in the base budget, and that said needs will be completed by the end of the budget year and will not be deferred or incrementally completed over a longer time. And whereas School District Bylaws 0147, Policy 3440, Policy 4440, and NJAC 6A:23B 1.2b provides that the Board of Education shall establish in the annual school budget a maximum expenditure amount that may be allotted for such travel expense reimbursement for the 13-14 school year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Monroe Township Board of Education hereby establishes the school district travel maximum for the 13-14 school year at the sum of $158,422. And be it further resolved that the school business administrator shall track these and record these costs to ensure the maximum amount is not exceeded. And now therefore let it be resolved that the superintendent of schools and the business administrator board secretary file the required documents with the executive county superintendent.
Is there a motion or a second to adopt the final?
So moved.
Who was the first?
Second.
Who was the first? Mr. Chiarella and Ms. Santellis. Is there any comments or questions by any member of the Board of Education before we open it to the public? Okay, seeing none, we will open a public forum just for your comments or questions in regard to the annual school budget adoption. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Tom Notestein, 15 Nathaniel Street. Just a quick question with regard to personnel services. On the FICA charge, I would have expected to see a 2% increase because last year it was the employer and the employee rate was 4.2 and it did go up to 6.2. Why is that no increase?
Mr. Gorski?
As part of the economic stimulus program, the FICA tax rate was reduced by 2% from 6.2 to 4.2%. For the employee portion only. The employer portion was never reduced under the law, and therefore there would be no increased cost to the board when it was reestablished.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that. With regards to the, excuse me, with the 17 new hires, you said most of them are mandated. Out of those 17, how much are not mandated?
Dr. Hamilton, do you want to take that?
About 10, excuse me, about 10 of those positions are not mandated, but necessary due to anticipated enrollment, growth enrollment.
So 7 were actually mandated out of the 17?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the budget?
Jill DeMayo, 48 Linwood Drive. I just have a question. Do we make SDA payments? And if so, have they gone up or remained the same?
Mr. Gorski?
When the Monroe Township Board of Education made application to the School Construction Corporation to build this school, we applied for a Section 15 grant, and that was in the amount of about $15 million. We have a signed and executed lease agreement from the state, and nowhere in that lease agreement does it define costs that have to be paid to the School Construction Corp for the purpose of what you just mentioned. However, the state has mandated these costs be deducted from state aid about 3 years ago, and they've been steadily increasing. The school district's state aid award this year is actually decreasing by about $34,000 because of a significant increase in that School Construction Corp required payment. The total required payment now, I believe, is about $106,000.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Frank Gagliotti, 18 Holmes Avenue. I just have a quick question about some of the budget lines, and one in particular. Quick calculation tells me that we've allocated $2.2 million for secretaries, okay, throughout all of the different services. I was just wondering, what's the number of secretaries that applies to?
That would require some analysis. I'm not sure district-wide how many secretaries we have.
So we know how much they cost, but we don't know how many there are.
That would require analysis more than I can give you off the cuff at this public forum.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa Weinthal, 10 McFarland Circle, Monroe. I'd like to address, I'm not sure who I got this letter from in response to 2 different forms of communication I sent to the Buildings, Grounds, Transportation Committee. Could someone tell me it was hand-delivered yesterday with no signature?
It was sent from the Buildings and Grounds Committee that met on Monday evening.
Yes, and who in specific would be responsible for preparing this?
The Buildings and Grounds Committee asked Mr. Gorski to prepare the letter and to send it out.
Okay, so...
It was pretty much dictated to Mr. Gorski at Monday's Buildings and Grounds Transportation meeting, and he sent it out with the committee's approval.
Okay, so then in an effort to have an open, honest, transparent dialogue that I was hoping this letter would provide answers to, and unfortunately, I didn't get anything but this very terse response despite at least 15 pages of correspondence that I did send you on both February 7th and March 4th. I'm hoping that we can have at least some honest discussion here at this public forum and get some public answers. The letter that I sent you that we had discussion about at the February 7th Buildings and Grounds meeting that was never addressed, said that you studied other districts. So I'd like to know, did you study South Brunswick, East Brunswick, and Old Bridge for their courtesy bus services?
I believe Mr. Gorski gave us all that information during a course of meetings throughout the last couple of years.
No, he gave us information about subscription busing services, not courtesy busing, which I provided in that letter. You say participation numbers have been unaffected, and yet your report issued on February 7th stated that 9th and 10th grade participation was down. So can you rectify that?
You can determine that in any individual grade level or particular sporting event that activity may be down, but in the aggregate, according to our athletic director, participation remains very strong and unaffected.
Well, on that exact note, you only surveyed athletics. You do recognize that there are non-athletic activities such as CMAC, after-school testing, band, chorus, that affect pretty much the other percentages of kids in this district who can't participate now because there is no after-school busing and their parents work. So I'd like to know when, because that was brought up at the last meeting, the request was asked, will that be reviewed? And the superintendent said yes.
Dr. Hamilton?
We have looked specifically at CMAC. That has been a significant area of concern, just based on the fact that that's an opportunity for students to make up missed work. And there have been some instances where students have not had that opportunity because of the after-school busing. So we are going to be revisiting how we may be able to augment that so that that does not happen.
And when might that be?
I have not presented that to the committee yet, but it's probably going to be on the next cycle, which will be the next BG&T meeting. I'm sorry, April.
April, that would be readdressed in April. So what about band and chorus students who don't have that opportunity either now in the middle school to participate because of the same situation?
The information that I've received is that the band and chorus program has not really been affected by that.
Decimated is the word I got. Oh. It's been decimated. Okay. Just another couple of questions. The last budget cycle, just two other questions too. Have you surveyed parents or students about the impact? Because it's a little bit of a one-sided survey that you're going through right now.
No, we have not.
Perhaps that would be an opportunity. The last budget cycle, you said the courtesy busing went to our over-adequacy, and if we reduced our over-adequacy, I believe Mr. Kaufman made the point, then we should be seeing more money. Did we see more money?
No.
Okay. So also the last budget cycle, I understood that several sports teams were approved. So two quick questions there. Do sports teams go to our over-adequacy?
I hit it before it beeped, but the 3 minutes was up.
But Mr. Gorski would like to answer your last question.
Okay.
Yes. According to the state's funding model, districts that were over adequacy were supposed to be severely reduced in funding in the 13-14 school year. The governor decided, along with affording a number of school districts a $1 increase, that he was going to hold districts harmless for this 1 year that were supposed to get a decrease in state aid funding. If it wasn't for that last-minute waiver to hold districts harmless, I guarantee, according to the formula, we would have had a reduction in state aid this year.
But that did answer my question. I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the time to do it. But my question was with regard to the two sports teams that were approved in the last budget cycle that went to our over-adequacy, and they're sports teams, and yet they don't impact. They impact a very small handful of students, yet busing impacts so much more. And I'm wondering what the cost differential was between busing and those two sports teams. That's all.
Which two sports teams are you referring to specifically?
Volleyball and lacrosse.
Do you know those numbers? I don't know what those, I don't know.
I don't believe they were added in the last budget cycle.
Lacrosse has been here for quite a while.
Freshman volleyball's new, is it not?
I don't believe it's new.
I'm not aware of any sports being added in the last budget cycle.
Okay, well, your time limit is up.
Well, but I asked those questions in my letter, so when will they be addressed?
Dr. Hamilton is going to bring it to the next BG&T committee meeting in April. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the budget?
Nelson Chen, 4 Ashley Court. On the budget, can you explain the fund balance, the general fund, the 5.8 million from the 2012, 2013 budget year, and then the 4.1 million in the 13-14? What money is that exactly?
When the district has a final approved budget, and the district, through efficiency or reduction of programs throughout the year, or deferring some initiatives, spends less than the actual amount of the approved budget, above a 2% surplus fund balance that's required by law, the rest is calculated into an excess surplus calculation and carries over 2 years forward, where it is then recycled into another budget year. We had a decrease by $1.6 million in the general fund balance being carried over to 13-14 as opposed to 12-13, because that year's budget was significantly impacted by the renovations to Applegarth School. So that's why that number has decreased from 5.8 to 4.1, and that has, as I mentioned before, a constricting effect on the budget because you have less carryover of surplus.
So this money is surplus money from the prior year that's used to offset this year's budget, if I'm understanding you correctly?
The 13-14 budget is
The
leftover
4.1
monies
million, yeah, the 4.1 million.
from 11-12.
Right, that's being used to offset that year's budget.
Correct.
And so the 5.8 million was from the prior year.
Yes.
So in essence, what I'm driving at, Mike and the board, is are we perhaps padding the budget by a lot of money that maybe we shouldn't be, and maybe that should be a savings for the taxpayers as well? Because it's 5.8, 2012, 13, and 4.1 million, that's a lot of money. So, which means that there's a lot of fat somewhere, because obviously people aren't spending all the money.
I have to disagree with both of those statements, that it's padding and fat.
Okay.
It's neither padding nor fat. It's monies that are not spent in a budget year through efficiencies that are carried over to the next year.
Well, call it what you want. It's leftover money that perhaps should be saved and maybe the budget should be curtailed by that amount.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the budget?
Cheryl Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. In the budget that's going to be approved tonight, I'm sure that you're all going to approve it, the iPad, is there what is the money allotted for downloads of textbooks next year?
Dr. Gorman, do you have the approximate amount for that? It's difficult to answer because they're spread through various different disciplines, but
Michelle, what we've been doing is as our textbooks are up for adoption, we've been looking at digital solutions versus regular solutions, so no more, no less that was allocated in our textbook accounts previously. So Mike would probably be able to comment on on the percentages of our textbooks accounts next year, which we're not really increasing from previous years.
textbook account is down almost 33% compared to the prior year. And that would be reflective of a reclassification of charges from the textbook account to the account other purchased services for instruction, which is where the downloads would be charged.
So say that again, so it goes from textbooks?
Previously, a hardcover textbook would be charged to the textbook account. But when you're downloading a textbook, it doesn't get charged to the textbook account anymore, according to the state's chart of accounts. It's a subscription and a technology license instead, and it goes to other purchased services for instruction. That account is up 12.6%, which would be indicative of...
Do you have a line item number on that?
Other purchase services for instruction is 11, 190, 100, 500.
Okay.
And
11,
textbooks?
190.
100.
100.
500.
Wow, good man.
And textbooks is 11, 190, 100, 640.
Doing this a while, Mr. Gorski? Okay. Well, my question is, I attended the the meeting at the Township Council and their budget, and the reason for the question is the librarian did, and these are not her numbers, this is what I ascertained from her talking to the Township Council, because they asked her about digital downloads for books, and she said that it was almost, well, she didn't say this, but I understood that it was like almost 10 times the cost for one book to the library than it would be to buy one book. Now, I know if you buy one library book, if you buy one textbook, you can spread it around and to the amount of textbooks that you're, like how many ever textbooks that you need in the classroom.
Here's the way it works on some of the textbooks that we're looking at. The current textbook costs about $100. Right now, the textbooks that we're looking at, the iBooks, are $14.99 a year. So while short term it's cheaper, it does basically match the same, but the advantages of the interactive textbooks is that they update regularly, and there's other interactive features like video, notes, and a lot of other things that regular textbooks don't do.
But does that include copywriting and all that stuff?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Don't you need copyright things? The kids, you can't, if you buy one digital textbook, can you share that and spread that around?
No, the textbook is for the individual student.
Okay, so it's however, per student.
$14.99 or less, yes.
Okay, so are there copyrights to each time you buy a digital text for a student?
Yes.
In addition to
yes.
that, in addition to the 14 something?
No, each time. So like if a kid had Algebra 1, $14.99 for that textbook. If you move to Algebra 2, it would be $14.99 for that textbook. That textbook is theirs. It stays with the subscriber. You can't replenish them. But that's the abbreviated cost versus the bigger cost of a $100 textbook.
Okay. And I'd like to go to mandated costs, because we hear a lot of that a majority of our budget is mandated costs. And when I was at the workshop, I think it was March 2nd, when you had, what was that organization you brought in, if you
New
please?
Jersey School Boards.
New Jersey School Board. I mean, we keep hearing that these are mandated costs, they're fixed costs, you can't change them. I would like the board to, when you talk about that, it is only mandated after you've negotiated the contract, is that correct? You are only obligated for those costs after you negotiate contracts. So then they become fixed costs at that point.
Pertaining to salaries and personnel services, I would agree with that statement, but there are certain other costs for student-related and so on that are, the board has no discretion in and are simply mandated outright, and we have to buy them each year.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I would hope that in the future, when you talk about mandated costs, you factor these things out and categorize them so the public is aware, because as the woman said, that when you are negotiating contracts, they are not fixed costs because then you're in the negotiation, and people misunderstand when you say mandated costs as one lump sum. So if you please start to identify what is actually mandated that you have no choices for, and so the public knows. And okay, and then the last thing I'd like to say is the MECA program. I've been here almost every meeting, and when it was first proposed, it was never proposed as a tiered enrollment where you're going to invite other people in. It was proposed as a self-sustaining situation. And in this budget, how much more than $200,000 is accounted for in here, in this next budget?
There is no loan proposed to the board
Not
to
to
the
the
MECA
board,
fund
oh.
in this budget. There's no increase in the loan required at this time from the general fund to the MECA program, which is a separate proprietary fund.
Okay, so, but how much is that separate proprietary fund at this time?
It has been loaned $200,000 cumulatively.
Okay, and has anything been repaid to that loan?
No.
Okay, so are we accumulating an interest debt? Is there anything that is increasing on that $200,000 loan at this time?
No.
Okay. And you talked about ratables, and I thank you for hanging in there, Mr. Gorski. You do a good job. But we've known that the ratables have gone down since 2008, and the budgets
Michelle.
have gone up. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak to the budget?
Good evening, Chrissy Skirby, 8 Seminole Court. I just had a question with the technology budget. You said it was approximately 500,000. Is that just for iPads, or will that be to update some of the technology in the schools? Specifically, in the elementary schools, I know it's been brought up, I think Dr. Gorman to you several times, the laptops are old and they have outdated, they need more memory, which specifically for the Rosetta Stone program is making it impossible for the students to log on. My child for the last 2 years continuously gets A's in the program, but he comes home and tells me they can't load it up. They've learned nothing through the Rosetta Stone program for the last 2 years due to the technology. And I've been told that it's been brought to your attention several times, and I'd like to know how that's going to be addressed.
Mike, okay.
All right. We get an opportunity to break out the budget book. The iPad lease obligation for next year is $439,000. That's just for the iPads that are deployed at the high school. In addition to that, we have lease purchase obligations for Applegarth Playground, computers and headphones that we're paying for that we bought last year. We have a new technology lease this year for Dell servers, wireless switches, IBM compatible notebooks, teacher notebooks, Mac Pros, new iPads, student iPads for growth. Total cost of about $332,000. That is throughout the elementary levels for a good part of that. And there's new copy machines being purchased to increase teacher efficiency that are going to the elementary schools.
Okay, so are there going to be new laptops provided to the elementary schools? Because what they're currently using this school year is not allowing them the functionality for Rosetta Stone specifically.
The answer to that is yes. There are going to be some new mobile carts that are going to be dispatched to the elementary
Will it be enough for the students in each classroom?
I didn't hear your question. What?
Will it be enough so that every child in the classroom, when they're doing the program, will have a laptop to use?
No, but a mobile cart will certainly help.
A mobile cart with enough laptop. Each child needs a laptop in order to utilize Rosetta Stone. They take the tests online. Without enough laptops, the teacher cannot have the class participate, and that's what's going on right now.
Chrissy, from what the Director of Information Systems have told me, there was a workstation specialist glitch that there was a workaround, and it wasn't allowing the, I think it was the license to be processed through the laptop. What was reported back to me was that was fixed, and that was no longer inhibiting the Rosetta Stone program. I will follow up with you, but I could get you a technical answer on whether it's the actual laptop or not. We've also been discussing at our budgets how are we going to prepare for the new park assessments coming down the next couple of years, which will be all online. We're about to submit the 3-year technology plan to the Board of Education to approve and deal with those issues. And that sort of plays into the financial model of leasing technology as opposed to buying technology, because you're explaining exactly one of our concerns. Can you make it one more year? What's going on with it? And then we run into some of the technology glitches that we're having. But from what I understand, while the laptops are out, some of them are old because they were phased in at different levels. The Rosetta Stone problem at Applegarth, or on that side of the district, was based off of a technology glitch, not the laptop. But I will follow up and
Okay,
give you
because that wasn't my
information.
understanding. My understanding, I was told that it was the memory on the computer doesn't support that. And that's been for the last 2 school years. It's upsetting to me as a parent that, my child comes home with these grades and he's learning nothing. And it's not just him, it's the entire school. You're paying for Rosetta Stone. We're paying money for this program, and the students can't take, I think it was brought up a couple of months ago at the January meeting, by another parent who had an issue with the Rosetta Stone program in general. We let go one teacher that serviced the entire school for world language. We bought Rosetta Stone, And now the kids are learning nothing for the last couple of years because of the technology. It's
I think that might be a generalization. I would be upset if they were not gaining from that as well. There were other teachers that were cut from it when we made those drastic cuts 3 or 4 years ago. The usage specifically that you're talking about is down. We've done surveys with teachers and other pieces throughout the district. The usage is much higher. I have the rates, I could even show you them. I need to flush out that problem with the technology department to make sure that the kids are getting it towards their max.
okay. So my original question was, are any laptops being replaced
And I think Mr. Gorski
at
said yes.
the elementary level?
Yes.
How many?
Looks like 60.
60 district-wide or 60 in just the elementary schools?
60 total.
District-wide?
Yes.
Okay,
And
thank you.
most of those are going to the elementary level,
Okay,
if
thank
not
you.
all, I believe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the budget? Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public forum, and we will have a vote on the adoption of the final annual 2013-2014 school budget, and made a motion by Mr. Chiarella and second by Ms. Antelis. A roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski?
No.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Precioso?
No.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes,
Madam Board President, motion passes.
thank you.
Board President, may I
Mr. Chiarella?
speak? I just wanted to just say a few things, and it pertains to the budget, but after the fact, so
Okay.
if I may. I want to thank Dr. Hamilton. I want to thank you, Mr. Gorski, for your efforts on the budget. I know this was a harrowing act, considering that we haven't received full funding for the 2008 School Funding Reform Act. So in spite of all of that, you managed to keep it together somehow, and I think year after year, you're doing a great job. And I also think the Finance Committee has done a wonderful job in making sure that this came together. And I'm not on the Finance Committee, by the way. One of the things that I want to bring up quickly is that the governor proposed property tax reform back when he was first running for governor, and he promised that he was going to change the dynamics of property taxes, and instead we received a 2% property tax cap. That's kind of like me saying I'm going to lose weight by only eating 2% more Twinkies over the next year. It just doesn't work. We need real property tax reform, and we need the governor to deliver on that property tax reform. Our schools should not be funded through property taxes, period. We should have a different funding metric, and this is regressive, and it's killing the taxpayers. With that being said, and although I think that you did a great job, everyone has done a great job with this budget, I think that we need to do some more with regards to busing. I think that, last summer, I asked the board to reinstate the 4:30 run, and at that time, I was told that we would put that off till the next meeting, and then we'd see if we could find money for it, and then the money couldn't be found, so that never went forward. At that time, if we had done that, we would have serviced a majority of students at the Monroe Township Middle School and the high school, and we would have eliminated pretty much the need for a safe haven at the middle school, the way I understood it. Since then, let me just go back for a second. We did this because we wanted to appease the funding gods in the state of New Jersey and hope that we were going to get more funding by reducing adequacy in our district. So basically creating a subpar environment for our children. I'm proud of our adequacy, by the way. And so we went about doing this, and Mr. Kaufman at that time brought up the need for us to review this at some point to see where we're at. Did it matter? Are we getting the funding that we're cutting for? So we're cutting to appease, but did we get anything out of it? And I think that we're at that point. And actually, when we look at our funding, we didn't get more funding, we actually got less. So, I've been hearing since we implemented this, I've been hearing from parents expressing real concerns, real issues about their children, from everything from tutoring to CMAC to being able to pick their children up, to some children being excluded from being able to participate in certain events or after-school activities, or even more importantly, scholastic activities. And I would like to see us reinstate the 4:30 run. And I waited for after the budget to be voted on so that I don't interrupt the budget process. But what I'd really like to ask Dr. Hamilton is, would my proposal, if I were to make it, harm or benefit the district?
Certainly, kids would be better off, parents would be better off with the busing. And I think I agree with you in regards to our efforts to reduce adequacy, our excessive efforts to reduce adequacy, and we've been, I think, very successful in doing that. But we have not reaped the rewards we thought we would get from doing that. But to answer your question directly, would kids be better with the 4:30 busing? Absolutely.
I appreciate your honesty and your candor. With that being said, though, I'm going to put this over and put this on all of us on the full board, because ultimately we make these decisions and we have to be culpable to them either way. So I just want to explain what I'm going to do, because I want every board member and I want the public to understand what I'm going to do. I want to amend the budget. I want to make a motion not asking for additional spending. But what I'm asking for is for us to eliminate some of the non-mandated or non-prioritized appropriations that are within the budget. So in essence, what I'm asking for is for us to take that pool of money for those things and allocate that to the 4:30 run, which in my estimation, from what I remember, was about $100,000. And now you're going to be proud of me, Mr. Gorski, because I was able to write up my own motion here, and it might not be as good as yours, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm asking the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education that we ask Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Gorski we direct Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Gorski to review the appropriations contained within the 2013, 2014 final adopted budget, to consider the elimination of certain non-mandated budget and non-prioritized appropriations, to provide for the reinstatement of 4:30 late-run transportation services at the Monroe Township Middle School and the Monroe Township High School for the cost of approximately $100,000.
Second.
Is there any comments or questions for Mr. Chiarella from the members of the Board of Education?
I have three.
Mr. Masters?
Thank you. Comments. Mike, do you think we'll have enough in the non-mandated pool to allocate to this?
I'm confident that Dr. Hamilton and I will review the entire budget book over break, and we will hone in on the non-mandated, non-priority budget items for this year. Obviously, the Monroe Township Middle School Performing Arts Center roof replacement was a priority item, to refresh the board's memory, but that still leaves a lot of appropriations that can be reviewed. The 4:30 late run is important to students, and we will be happy to serve the board in that capacity.
And that'll go through finance, I guess?
Yes.
The second one, the safe haven, is that going to go away then?
There would be no need for, am I speaking out of turn?
No.
There would be no need for the 4:30 the after-school safe haven at that.
And that's, how much is that? I mean, is that a big nut right there we can use?
25.
That was about $15,000, if I recall correctly, but the costs for the busing have gone up slightly, so the total additional budget charge would be about $100,000.
The other thing is just a comment. Let's not forget, if we do this, the zero period also. I know we're not discussing that here. And I know that's a lot more money. It was like $250 or something like that. And if we can't come up with that, I know a bunch of people talked about moving it during the day, or maybe being a little creative after school so they can piggyback on some of the other. Again, just something to think about. I don't want that to get lost in it.
That's a little more elaborate planning than the $100,000 after school.
That's it.
Anyone else? Ms. Santellis?
So, cutting these non-mandated costs, is there anything that will affect children?
Administration has always avoided programs that affect children with any budget cut or consideration we've ever made. So we will not cut any program or recommend any program that affects children.
I know that, excuse me, that we're collecting some revenue from the BASC program. Is it possible just to use that money towards this busing?
The BASC monies are already incorporated into the budget. They were anticipated at the budget's creation.
Perhaps
So
in the future, we could
perhaps-
just, use that money, just appropriate it right towards after-school busing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairwell, I just have a question for you. Are you asking us to approve putting in the 4:30 bus run? Because at this time, I would like to see what the cuts are made before I approve any 4:30 bus run.
My motion is just directing them to
To just look at what could be
do it
cut.
and then.
And then have them bring it back to whatever committee meeting, and then bring it to the full board after that.
Yes.
And then we would discuss it then. Okay.
And this is for, Madam Board President, 12, 13, 14 school year.
Yes, sir.
So this recommendation would not belabor our ability to submit the plan, the budget to the county office on time.
Right, and that was my intention, that's why I waited until after the budget adoption, because I didn't want, I understand everything that went into building this budget, and I understand that it's due tomorrow, and I want to make sure that we're all right with that.
Anyone else wishing? Mr. Prezioso?
What does this bus run support? What programs?
Dr. Hamilton?
Some of the sporting events, CMAC, kids who go for after-school tutorial. CMAC is an opportunity, it's a lab that's designed to provide students with an after-school opportunity if they are absent and have to make up classwork, that sort of thing. As well as co-curricular and extracurricular activities.
Mr. Tesler?
Thank you. I know we're probably going to hear it after this because you've been going back and forth on this busing issue for quite a few years now. But, I know we rehashed it. We decided last year to cut it thinking we'll be getting more money, and that wasn't the case. But at the end of the day, I know we can maybe consider flip-flopping, but at the end of the day, we really have the students' best interest in mind. So I would like to encourage everybody on the board to support this, because it is important for a child to have a well-rounded education, to be able to participate in after-school sports and co-curricular activities like a lot of children do, to get the after-school tutoring that they need. And, we live in different times than maybe I grew up or people grew up where, only one parent worked. And, we're trying to be attentive to everybody's family situation, and the kids do need a ride home. I know my daughter participates in the high school varsity cheer program. She gets sometimes, if she had an opportunity to take the bus, she could. Right now, the parents actually work together and they carpool, and the kids get a ride home. But not all children have the opportunity to do that. So I know we've been going back and forth on this quite a few years, but it gives the kids a better opportunity in our district in the long run. And I think it is worth the money investing in the children for this, because like I said, it's not just the academics. We want a well-rounded children for a well-rounded education for our children, which also includes sports, clubs, and the arts and things like that. Thanks.
Anyone else? Then we'll have a vote on Mr. Chiarella's motion, but I will ask him to read it again before we vote on it. Or
Would you like me to read it?
Oh, you wrote it down?
Yes.
You
While I
wrote
was
it down?
talking?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is recommended that the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education direct Dr. Hamilton and me to review the 13-14 appropriations contained in the final budget just approved, and consider eliminating any non-mandated, non-priority appropriations to reinstate the 4:30 Monroe Township Middle School and Monroe Township High School late courtesy busing runs, and report such findings through the Finance Committee and the next Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. You left out a couple words, but that was pretty good.
Roll call?
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
No.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
No.
Mr. Precioso.
No.
Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I think we're going to the superintendent's report, Dr. Hamilton.
Thank you. Madam Board President, members of the Board of Education, the student enrollment report is included as of February 28th, 2013. I have an increase of 2 students, but 184 more students than we did the same time last year. The out-of-district placement and homebound instruction list is enclosed for your review and information as well. Moving on to the fire drills and security drills. Our schools have been compliant with conducting their fire drills and security drills according to mandates, and they are listed there for your information. Moving on to the personnel items. Madam Board President, members of the Board of Education, it is recommended by the superintendent that personnel item A be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella and Ms. Antelis, any comments or questions for Dr. Hamilton?
Just A.
Just A.
Excuse me, this is just on A?
This is just on A, yes. We need to rescind the previous approved personnel items so that they can be reintroduced.
Okay, no, roll call?
Do we have the first and second?
Yeah, with, I believe, Mr. Chiarella and Ms. Antelis. Was it you?
They sound alike.
Mr. Masters.
So noted.
You'll look alike.
Ms. Antelis. Yes. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman. Yes. Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Precioso.
Yes.
Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, personnel items A passes.
It is further recommended by the superintendent that personnel items B through double J be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Antelis, are there any comments or questions for Dr. Hamilton? Mr. Prezioso?
I'd like to make a statement. This is towards personnel. Although there are some family members of the Board of Education in the past to be hired, it is our moral obligation to use our policies we have made and use them for what the intent was in the first place. The board has an obligation to the public to do what is moral, right, and just. I would like to bring this up at the committee meeting, at the policy meeting, and to try to change some policies about nepotism. And we have a vote coming down, and I know we voted on it the last time, and I'd like to see some of the board members change their vote.
Thank you, Mr. Prezioso. Anyone else? Mr. Masters?
Personnel, are we in line with all of our policies with these personnel recommendations?
Yes, sir, we are.
Anyone else? Then we will have a roll call.
This is for personnel items B through double J. Ms. Antelis. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes on everything except double I.
That's a no on double I. So noted. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes to everything, recuse double I.
So noted. Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Precioso.
Yes on everything but double G and double I.
So noted. Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion personnel report B through double J passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to board action items, I am pulling item E, so my resolution will be read in 2 parts. Madam Board President and members of the Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through D be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Tesler, comments or questions? Seeing none, we will have a roll call.
Board action items A through D. Ms. Antelis.
Yes.
Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Precioso.
Yes.
Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, board action items A through D passes.
Thank you.
And lastly, it is further recommended by the superintendent that board action items F through H be approved by roll call vote.
Ms. Antelis?
Second.
Mr. Chiarella? Again, comments or questions
I
for
have a
Dr.
question.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, if you could, on H, I'm just wondering what the school improvement panels are?
These are panels that we're required to have in compliance with the new teacher evaluation system.
Mr. Masters?
E, at no cost to the district, an exchange registration is open to outside enrollees. What does that mean? Or does it mean exactly what I think it says?
I don't know. What do you think it says?
I'll let you say it first.
We're bartering.
So outside enrollees, other schools?
Yes.
Just other schools?
Yes.
Or I can walk in and take them?
No.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Board action items F through H. Ms. Antelis. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Precioso.
Yes.
Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, board action items F through H pass.
Thank you.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
And we will move on to the Business Administrator's report. Mr. Gorski?
Madam Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through I be approved by consent roll call.
Mr. Chiarella?
Second.
Mr. Masters?
Oh, I can't second. Strike that. I have to recuse on something.
Mr. Masters
I'll
did not
second.
second it. Miss
I'll second.
Mr. Tesler seconded. Any comments or questions for Mr. Gorski? Mr. Tesler?
Yes, could you just explain F, please?
Is that F?
F?
Sure. Transfer number 8.
Yes. Transfer number 8 is a normal customary transfer list that was sent to the board, adjusting the budget through various account transfers that are permissible by the Department of Education because they do not exceed 10% of the advertised line item, and therefore it just allows the board the latitude of making required adjustments during a budget cycle.
Is that okay, Mr. Tesler?
There's a lengthy list. I can go through each required element of it, but that's the general.
Can I read that?
Okay.
Anyone else?
I read the
Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we will have a roll call.
All right. Sorry, I lost my place. Ms. Antelis. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Masters.
Yes on all, recuse on H, as in Howard.
Recuse on H. So noted. Mr. Poi.
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso.
Yes.
Mr. Tesler.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, action passes.
Thank you. And that concludes your report.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Board President's report. I apologize. I do not have a report this evening. So we will go on to committee reports. Are there any committees that need to or wish to report this evening? None?
I have one. Hold on.
Oh. Mr. Masters?
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds meeting this week, the 18th we had it. Real fast, we renewed the Barkley Brook trailers for another 2 years. The IAQ review came in for Barkley Brook. We have some minor painting remediation to do over the summer. Reviewing the needs for next year for the snowplow contract. And we went over the Monroe Township Middle School Classroom 129 Interior Alterations Project, which should be ready by September 2013. We, I guess, spoke about the parking situation on Applegarth and some of the options we have to us. Right now, we're not going to do any major renovations. The cost was very prohibitive, upwards of $250,000. And we also discussed some of the grants that we could get from the state for some construction. And basically what we're looking at now is we have contacted the state for some money. Right now they have zero money in their grant coffers. And in addition, if you try to, I think how Jerry said, if you try to use a grant with some of your projects, it basically puts the project on hold until they have money in their coffers. So we're not actually following up on that. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move to other Board of Education business. Is there any other business from any member of the Board of Education? Mr. Tesler?
Some good news I would like to share. The Monroe Township varsity cheer squad participated this past weekend in their annual national cheer competition in Florida. And this is the first time in the history of Monroe Township that they've won a national championship. So I'd like to congratulate the kids, the coaches, the staff for a job well done. They've worked long and hard, and just like to wish them well and share some good news.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Poi?
I've got several items. The first one is I was uncomfortable when I heard that we were going to be having police present at tonight's meeting, with no disrespect to our fine police officers, but I did not feel that it was necessary, and I certainly do not feel that it is necessary that we have police present in the future at our board meetings, and so I would like for any members of the board to express their opinion about that. In the event that there are plans for this to continue, I think it is unnecessary. I think it is also a waste of board funds.
Would you like to make that into a motion?
I can make it into a motion if that would be appropriate before the discussion.
Well, then we'll have
Yes,
if it's second,
yes.
we'll have a discussion.
Okay, then I move that we dispense with having the presence of police officers at our board meetings.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kaufman. Any comments or questions by members of the board? Mr. Chiarella?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Antelis?
Well, first of all, I think the motion locks us into permanent, and we might have a case. A few years ago, a woman showed up here at the high school screaming at Mr. Goodall, looking for me. Apparently, she had read an article in the newspaper about the Yom HaShoah, and she was very upset that she thought we were having menorahs at the school. Mr. Goodall explained, thank you, to her that that was not the case. She left here and very agitated. She proceeded to go to the township, very agitated. She got more agitated when she went to the police department. She got even more agitated when she started calling people from the Yom HaShoah committee and threatening them. Finally, we had to have the prosecutor's office come in, and that woman was picked up, and when they went to her house, she had weapons there. This woman displayed angry and threatening behavior, okay? I've seen it over and over. When people from the public come up, we're polite to them, we expect them to be polite to us. Somebody who displays threatening and aggressive behavior should not be in here, and I feel threatened by it, okay? This is not the first time this person has shown this behavior, and we are elected public officials, and we should be protected.
Any comments from anyone else? Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I was under the impression that this was for tonight. I didn't know we were going to be doing that going forward, so I don't know. You know, I don't know what the I think we just said $90 an hour for 2 police officers. So I just wanted to just state that.
Okay, Mr. Kaufman?
It's an interesting topic, I think. Unfortunately, they weren't recorded, but back in the day, this Board of Education went through many years of board meetings when we used to have like even 2 meetings a month. And that lasted for, I have no idea, 7, 8, 9, 10 years when we tried to get this high school built. And if some of you were, I know George You know, you're like a rock. You've been like at almost every board meeting like since I've been around. Some of those meetings got to be extremely heated and very personal, and there were personal attacks at board members. There were personal attacks between members of the public to each other. It was a crazy, crazy, crazy time, and those meetings weren't recorded. But it was very, I said crazy. And we did not have a need to have police presence at those meetings, because at the end of the day, while everybody is very passionate about the schools and very passionate about trying to get the equal share for everybody, things sometimes do get out of control, and for that we apologize, and we move forward, and we realize that, you know, we can do better, and we will do better for everybody. But having police here, as was stated earlier, if we can't justify having police in our schools where we really need to be protected, then there really is no justification to have police here at a public meeting. So that's just where I stand.
Ms.
I'm going
Antelis?
to disagree, and the only reason that nobody ever came from behind that mic and started approaching the people on this board and the superintendent.
Mr. Klein. Anyone else?
I agree, and I also think we should modify the motion, because we are locking ourselves into never having a police presence unless we make another motion. So I'd like to modify the motion to say exactly what you said, unless there is credible evidence of an imminent threat.
Would Mr. Poi agree with that?
I would accept that amendment or modification.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Masters? That would be Mr. Chiarella. Is there any comments or questions to the amendment to the motion?
Just one.
Okay, Mr.
Just to
Kaufman?
be clear, how are we going to define credible and imminent threat? Because because if you want to bring it back, we got to know how we bring it back.
I would define it by credible evidence by the police department.
So the police would have to be here to define the.
No, the police would have to tell us ahead of time. There's an imminent
So they would be
threat.
here. I'm sorry.
No, ahead of
They
time.
would have to be here in advance to tell us that the next meeting was credible threat, or.
No, they would tell us, hey, we have we have credible evidence of a threat.
You're saying like they got a warning,
Yes.
for example. Oh, I agree.
Okay. So now, any other comments to Ms. Zarneski?
I think as we move forward here, you talk about a credible threat. That being, it was brought up by Ms. Antilles that it happened here. If one of us board members or Dr. Hamilton would agree that they would be here, I think that should be part of the criteria also, not just the police saying, hey, somebody from the outside is doing it. If somebody from this board going through Dr. Hamilton says, I suggest we might have it, I think that should be another option explored too. Not to close the door completely, not to open it completely.
Which is actually, I'm sorry.
Ms.
Which is
Antelis?
actually how this came about. I sent a letter to Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Gorski, and Ms. Kolopanowicz requesting police presence for tonight. Not just the fact of what happened at the March 5th meeting, but in addition, that it was a budget hearing and people get upset, people get excited. The council has it at their meeting.
Mr. Prezioso?
We're a small community. I know everybody out there, and I agree with Lou. I mean, if we're not going to protect our kids with police, why should we have them here? And unless there's a threat, and we know there's a threat coming, we don't need policemen. So I agree with Lou.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? So at this point, we are going to vote on Mr. Masters' was your amendment second?
Yes.
Yeah.
By Lou, right?
Yes.
So we're going to vote on the amendment to the motion. To add, could you please say that again?
I have it written down.
Okay.
That's the board secretary's role. It is recommended to the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education to dispense of police services unless there is a credible threat or the need arises at the discretion of the superintendent.
So we're going to vote on his amendment, and then we'll vote on the motion. Is correct? Okay, so we'll have a roll call on Mr. Masters' amendment.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Precioso? Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Madam Board President, The amendment passes.
And then we will have a roll call on Mr. Poy's original motion with Mr. Master's amendment.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Poy?
Yes.
Mr. Precioso? Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz?
Yes,
Madam Board President, motion unanimously passes.
thank you. Mr. Poy, I believe you still had some comments to make?
Yes, the second point concerns the MECA program. I would like to see and I suppose this would be the appropriate committee, the Finance Committee, I would like for them to discuss setting a deadline for sufficient enrollment in the MECA program so that we do not enter into September attempting to operate a MECA program when we do not have adequate enrollees to cover the cost of that program. And all I'm saying is I would like the Finance Committee, if that's the appropriate committee, to look at that suggestion and to consider setting a deadline whereby we can make a decision as to whether to attempt to keep that program afloat or to eliminate it.
Okay, we'll have the administration bring that information to the next Finance Committee, and they can make a recommendation to the board. Okay?
Thank you. And my third point is I would like to hear information in terms of, and possibly we could have this at the April meeting, in terms of the cost and effectiveness of using the Rosetta Stone program in the elementary grades versus the cost of a live teacher or teachers, whatever the case may be. And I don't know if that's a matter of curriculum or finance or both, but I've heard parents express their dissatisfaction with the Rosetta program. Being a former educator, I believe that nothing beats a live teacher if you want to really get kids excited about what they're learning. And so when the board decided to eliminate live teachers at the elementary program some years ago, I was very disappointed in that. So I'd really like for us to take a look at what are we spending for that program, and is it effective, and what would it cost us to bring back live teachers?
Okay, we will send that to the Curriculum Committee at their next Curriculum Committee, and if whatever recommendation, we'll make sure that the Finance Committee has that information too. Does that conclude your question?
That's mine.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Chiarella?
Yes, I have more. I just, a couple meetings back, I had asked the board to consider looking at moving our committee meetings up, or committee reporting up earlier in the meetings, so that board members who aren't on those committees or could not make those committees could be better informed about some of the things that they were voting on, some of the things, some of the minutia and some of the things like that, so they could then ask those committee chairs questions and get some more information. I don't know how that turned out, but I haven't heard anything. So I'm going to make a motion tonight and ask the board to move our committee reports up to the beginning of the meetings, and
I'll second it.
Point of order.
Yes.
That structure should be outlined in the board bylaws, the bylaws that govern the governance of meetings. So that should go through policy and then to the board.
Okay, so what do I do then? I just,
Send it to the Policy Committee.
okay.
And one of the reasons we haven't done it the last two meetings is because of the, having the budget presentations
Oh, I understand
at the
that.
beginning. So we kind of wanted to get that out of the way and all the comments and questions that had before we started.
If I may then, I think then, and everyone could disagree with me, it doesn't matter. I just want to make another point then. If we're going to send this back to policy then, and we're going to look at that, then maybe what we should look at is moving those reports to even a different meeting. Because I think what happens sometimes is even maybe having it at the beginning of the meeting might be not enough time for board members and even the public to digest what's coming out of the committees. And I think that sometimes if we have a tendency to move too fast, and then we end up either regretting what we did or finding out that maybe what we did wasn't the right thing, or seeing some of the error in some of the things that we did. And not for anyone's fault of anyone, but maybe we have a tendency sometimes to move too fast. And I think when we're dealing with the public's money and we're dealing with our children, that maybe we should move a little slower. And I think we would eventually catch up to ourselves if we looked at maybe putting those, for instance, if we had our committee reports this meeting for the things that we would adopt at the next meeting. So that's what I'd like to, and I'll work with the policy committee, or I'll work with you to.
Yeah, and every member of the Board of Education gets a copy of all the notes from each committee meeting before before the Board of Education meeting. Right. So they have that information, and then might be a good idea to change the committee structure to the beginning, and then they have the opportunity to ask, because a lot of the things that come up during the month need to be put on the agenda for timely matters.
I understand that, but I think that as we would get used to the system, we would get better at managing that and managing the time, and be able to, because there are times when we'll have a question or say, hey, can we look into this a little more? And then the answer that we get back, and not necessarily from the administration, but even from each other, is that now we have to move on this now, or we're going to miss this deadline, or if we don't move on this, we're going to miss being able to do this for September. So I think if we were able to budget our time accordingly, maybe we'd be able to have more time to digest some of these things. That's all.
Okay.
And there are some boards who have committees as a whole meetings, so all the committee meetings are structured with the full board. It just means adding another public meeting to our calendar every month, as opposed to the committee meeting. So
I think
that's an
kind of
option
the
too.
town council does that. They have an agenda meeting, and then they have the full meeting.
And that's one of our bylaws, is that
That is
we work
correct.
as a board of committees. So that would have to be looked at. But thank you, Mr. Chiarella. Anyone else? Mr.
If I may,
Zarneski?
I don't know, maybe I'm missing the point here. I think what Mr. Chiarello is trying to say is these committee, before the personnel items that we listed today, the personnel committee head would then give a report. I'm understanding that it's just possibly changing the way the agenda is
Yes,
written.
yes.
And you have a whole separate policy on the way the agenda is written?
Yeah, the bylaws that govern the organization of the meeting, yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Then, if there's no other board business, we will go to closed session. I have a question for Dr. Hamilton. How much time? So you might want to move the public session forum before?
Is Vi here? I didn't even see Vi.
Mary's here, I think.
Oh, Mary's here.
Yeah. Because we have four things on the,
That's going to be about an hour.
about an hour. Okay, it looks like our closed session resolution, or closed session, will take about an hour. So if one of the board members would like to make a motion to move the public forum to before the closed session, this way people can leave. Because I don't think there's going to be any resolution that we can discuss after. Nobody wants to do that?
Prerogative, you could just move it.
I can do that?
Yes.
Oh,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so at this time, we will go to the last public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to anything, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Mark Klein, 53 Turnberry. I came here with a prepared statement that has nothing to do with what happened. But I take offense to what Ms. Antilles said, but I will not lower myself to address what she said. She knows what goes on in the closed meetings that we're not allowed to talk about. But I'm just letting it go. This is my statement. First, I would like to apologize to some of the board for my yelling back at the last meeting. Also, in my opinion, to have a police officer here is totally ridiculous and a waste of money and makes this board look bad. I want to correct some misinformation printed in some of the newspapers during the last 2 months. As this board should remember, we discussed having a board member sitting as a liaison on the planning board. I brought that up myself because other towns did it, to voice our concerns about the impact to the student population caused by the approval of new family communities, and to keep this board informed of applications and approvals so you could better be prepared for the future growth. When I was on the board, I attended these meetings and I reported their actions. At the same time, I said that actions of this board, which increases property taxes, is wrongly blamed on the municipal government, and therefore a liaison representative of the town should be on this board to work together to help advise and give feedback to the mayor and town council. Both bodies should work together as a team for the betterment of Monroe Township and all its residents. This has been done by some towns already very successfully. By the way, both positions would be non-voting. They would just be able to voice their opinions. Last week in the Home News Tribune, it was reported that I was requesting a lawsuit for the $500,000 we were cut years ago. That was totally wrong. I want a lawsuit filed to finally have Monroe Township receive their fair share in state funding, which is estimated to be between $25 and $30 million. I was notified today, and I have it here. This is my last, and I'll be out of here. I've been notified about the press conference being held by South Brunswick parents about state aid cuts in the past years, and they were insulted when they only received $1 increase for next year. By the way, there were 40 districts only received $1. Let me add that in the years 2011 to 2012, South Brunswick received $21,500,000 in state aid. And this year, 2012 to 2013, they received $23,230,000 in state aid, and I believe they have less students than we have. And we only received $2.6 million, and we took a decrease of $36,000.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. It's perfect timing.
Okay. I just had a little bit more, but it's okay. I'm cool.
Good evening, Tom Notestein, 15 Nathaniel Street. First off, I would like to thank the president tonight for moving the public forum ahead. That's a genius idea to make a motion, because obviously you have a quick closed session. There's no need to. So tonight was perfect, and I really appreciate your the consideration that you give to the public, so we didn't have to sit here for an hour. Secondly, I'd like to thank Mr. Poit tonight for making the motion about Monroe's Finest being here tonight. It's really staggering that they're even here tonight. I've always complained about having a lawyer here, and thank goodness we no longer have a lawyer that we're paying to sit here and make this extra money. And I have nothing wrong with making extra money, but I love when the board tries to save money, and by not having the Finest here is a saving, and it's also showing respect to the public, and I thank you for going ahead with that. Secondly, thirdly, on another point, with regard, I lost my train of thought here now. With regard to the agenda. I know this is a touchy subject, but in a previous administration, we used to have the report for suspensions. We would actually list, now of course not the student name, but we would have a list of saying student X suspended, reason, and if there was any monetary damages for those. I'm hoping that we could get that back in the agenda again. If you recall, it used to be there. Now we just get a report, I guess the attached student suspension report that just goes to the board.
Are you referring to the violence and vandalism
report? No. Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't get that.
That's reported annually. That report.
Okay. It used to be reported every time if there was on a monthly basis, kind of like a fire drill. If there would be a student suspension, if there was theft, and how much, or vandalism.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Lisa Weinthal, 10 McFarland Circle. I'd like to take my 3 minutes and just thank Mr. Chiarella and those that supported the motion to relook at busing for the 415 run. I know there was a tremendous amount of discussion on there, and I know this debate has created a tremendous amount of tension, dissension, and distrust. I'm hoping this board continues to make strides to alleviate that and reverse that situation. And this is a good, positive first step, so I want to thank you. The one thing I do want you to all keep in mind is that there are these kids who are not athletically involved that are exactly impacted, and that's who you've been referring to, because it's not the athletics that get picked up at 5:15 and 5:30. It's the kids who are after school for CMAC, after-school testing, band and chorus, who don't have the opportunity to have parents run and do because they don't work in town, and they don't work for the board, and they don't work for the schools. So thank you once again. I look forward to hearing some positive motion on this, and I look forward to hearing some where this is going for the 13-14 budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank Gagliotti, 18 Holmes Avenue. I'd just like to make a suggestion as you conduct your review concerning the non-priority, non-essential items that you're going to be looking at to accommodate the busing, which I fully support. You might have the opportunity to identify other areas which you might consider for either reductions or elimination, not for this budget, but perhaps for future budgets, so that we can begin to look ahead in the process to try to make some accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
George Gunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe. There are a couple of issues that have come up. At the previous meeting, I spoke about one of the township-supported organizations, the Cultural Arts Commission, being placed in a separate tier from other township organizations in fees that the school board is charging for use. That issue has not been resolved in what I would consider a positive way, and I've received no formal report as yet. But to my understanding, there was a committee decision to keep in place everything that was previously decided. That issue, among others, and I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Klein a little bit, we have some things that are going on between the township administration and the school, or particularly the school district, that are, and there's some tensions and some conflict. I don't think it serves the community at all well that we have this conflict. And I would like to request that the administration here arrange to have some kind of communication directly with the mayor and the township administrator. At the next meeting of the township council, I'm going to make a similar request in that meeting for them to reach out here, because that tension, and I hear rumors of tit-for-tat things. Nothing about it is going to be useful, and it's going to create relationship problems for us going forward. And I hope we can get them resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Sorry, Michelle Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. I actually wasn't going to get up, but I with all due respect to Mr. Gunkelman and Mr. Klein, sorry. I think that we have to keep in mind that there are 2 separate bodies here. They're 2 duly elected bodies, and they should remain separate. Everyone is invited to go to any of the other meetings as a public person, you know, just to observe the other meetings, and I think that it should be kept that way. In as much as I may disagree with the board here and sometimes the council, I respect that you are elected officials and you have a responsibility separate from the other parties, and I think there should not be any undue influence, except that I do think that the Board of Education should be very cognizant of the kinds of planning and zoning that's going on in the community, because it does directly affect the way in which the growth of the district is. So, but I don't believe that I think there should be cordial communication, no problem. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. But I think they should be separate because each one of you are duly elected separately from the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Notstein, 15 Nathaniel Street. With regard to the comments made by Mr. Gunkelman, he mentioned that there were some other organizations in Monroe that are in the Tier 1 for using the facilities. Is that an accurate statement? Are there any other organizations in Tier 1 that are similar to the Cultural Arts Commission?
Mr. Gorski?
Tier 1, and you can access this on a district website, is student groups, student and athletic use of the facilities, Monroe Ed Foundation, PTOs, PTAs, and the Monroe Township Rec Department. I believe that's everybody in Tier 1.
So basically, it sounds like Tier 1 is really mostly geared towards any student type of activity. Is that accurate assessment?
Right. Yeah, Monroe students, yes.
Monroe students. So when he, I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Yes.
So when he says that that there's other things in there and that he feels the Cultural Arts Commission should be in that Tier 1, is the Cultural Arts Commission considered mainly geared for the students?
That's not my understanding. Students do participate.
Sure.
But it's not just geared directly towards students.
Okay. So like the Whittingham, Greenbrier, when they had their events, they're not in Tier 1 either, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Christy Skirby, 8 Seminole Court. I just wanted to express to the board that I support the budget. Thank you for not making drastic cuts. I know that there is a constituent of population here in Monroe that have come to you and asked for significant cuts, and I thank you for not doing that to our budget this year. I do want to point out, I do understand as a resident that taxes have gone up for everybody in town, but I'd like to reiterate why our taxes have gone up, and it's not just the schools. We have a new senior center that was built. We had a new library addition that was built, a new rec center. And the communities, the adult communities also have very large facilities of their own as well. Stonebridge has one of the largest clubhouses. The Regency is getting a brand new huge tennis pavilion. So we live in a very good community. There are a lot of amenities for everybody, for seniors and students. And it saddens me as a parent to come to these meetings month and month again and hear residents begging for the budget to be disseminated. I think the figure that was out there was that they wanted $7 million cut from the budget, and I want to thank you for not doing that. I also would just like to say, in Monroe, we have incredible teachers. I know their salaries are always a topic of conversation here as well, and I would just like to say our teachers here in the district are incredible. They go above and beyond. They go above and beyond their call of duty, especially I'm only familiar with really Oak Tree and Applegarth. Our teachers are incredible. They came out last Friday night. We had over 20 teachers come and perform in our variety show to raise funds for our PTA that directly provides programs and services back to the students. We have over 25 staff members, from the secretaries to the teachers, coming out to our fundraiser on April 12th, working and participating as well as coming and paying for their tickets to come to support the schools, because all the money that we raise comes directly back to the programs that the board does have to cut. So I just want to thank you and tell you how much the parents appreciate the budget and the teachers as well.
Thank you.
Just one quick question.
Mr. Klein, please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Klein, 53 Turnberry. There's a rumor going around, I heard it today in my development, that there were 400 affordable housing units approved for Mount Mills and 613. Now, I do know under COA, in the end of 2010, the township had to identify areas that would only be for affordable housing and had to be put in their master plan. Otherwise, any builder can come in under builder's remedy and build affordable housing anywhere they wanted. This township did, and they identified the area that we're talking about was supposed to be for seniors, and the other one is on Applegarth, just north of 33, and that was supposed to be for veterans, families of dead police officers, dead firemen, and those count 2 units. I mean, 1 unit counts as 2 units for the obligation. What I heard was, and I called John Riggs, I know it's going to be up soon, John Riggs and also Wayne Hamilton, to try to find out if there's fact to that. If it is, and it's going to be families, you're going to have the same problem that you have at Ingman, which is down on 522. I was at Affordable Housing Committee meeting here when they made a speech about, or gave what their plans were. And they basically were going to put up 100 rental units for affordable housing, that they were going to contribute $72,000 in extra income to municipality, but then said would not be paying any school taxes. That's what scares me about this. If this is the same thing and it's Ingman, then you have 400 units of 2 children per unit. You got 800 kids, and they're not going to pay into the system. So I hope somebody can try to get some information on that. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we will close public forum and go into our closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 to 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: student matters, harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents 27 through 30, seeking attorney advice regarding Plickter versus Monroe Township Board of Education, board and superintendent discussion surrounding March 5th, 2013 public meeting, and to receive attorney advice regarding that meeting, superintendent's evaluation. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time that the matters have been resolved. Motion, Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Masters, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait, hold on 1 second before board members leave.
Oh, no.
Pam, I just realized that was you sitting there. I'd like to welcome our new vice principal. Jeff just mentioned that to us. Please stand and so we can see who you are. Of Oak Tree School. I am so sorry.
Welcome.
Partly because I refuse to wear my glasses too. So.
Oh.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so all in favor? I think we did that. Okay. Okay, at this time, the board will reconvene into public session. And our next scheduled Board of Education meeting will be Wednesday, April 17th, 2013, 7:00 p.m. at the high school. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Tesler? Mr. Masters, all in favor?
Wait a minute, he had it.
Well,
Come on. We didn't have
Who
any,
wants it?
we didn't have any more,
Who
anything
wants
on
it?
this
Mr.
side. Give it to us.
Mr. Tesler, who had it? Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Tesler.
Then we'll have to revote it next meeting.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The meeting is adjourned.